Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting. It's 1 o'clock and I call this meeting to order. And I'm going to invite Councillor Forder to read our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis people and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters.
And now I'll just invite you to join me in a moment of silent reflection on today's business. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? And seeing none around the table, I just invite you to keep it in mind and bring it forward if at any time you believe there is one. And now we'll move on to announcements. CAO Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one introduction today. I'm pleased to introduce our new Economic Development Coordinator, Graham Taylor. Graham is here over on the side there. Graham is residing in the main office and be working with myself and also Rob very closely on things like the short-term rental licensing, Main Street, community profile, and all those fun, exciting stuff that economic development gets involved in. So
thank you very much. There are other announcements today. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I just wanted to bring to the attention of people, the Bogner Community Center is having one of their major fundraisers right now. They're selling pork chops, 10-pound box of pork chops, either smoked or unsmoked, for $50. We have to July 5th to get the orders in. You can either phone 519-372-9771 or go on their website at bognercommunitycenter.gmail.com, and you can do it all through that website. And I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure you'll be speaking more broadly to the upcoming events for Canada Day, but I just wanted to mention on behalf of the Rotary Club that Rotary will be undertaking the pancake breakfast in partnership with the Military Resource Center, beginning bright and early at 7 a.m. down at the Harbour Pavilion. And Rotary will then roll over into a barbecue after that, and which will be taken over by the Kinsmen. We have some Kinsmen here with us today, so we thank them. And at 11:15, the main ceremony begins. And shortly after that, Rotary will be presenting their Citizen of the Year award, which is, I happen to think, the most prestigious award of the year. So please try and join the Rotary Club for that presentation at the flagpole. And I was just going to touch as well on the Friends of the Library concerts. Last night was the opening concert at the Russ Bumstead Harbour Pavilion. It was more than overflowing with people who came out to hear Waverly Rice and his friends. Unfortunately, the weather kicked up at intermission and a lot of people went home, but it was a great concert. And next Sunday will be Bill Monahan. So that's 7 p.m. at the Russ Bumstead Rotary Pavilion, and donations are gladly accepted for the Friends of the Library. Thank you.
Other announcements. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I have two announcements, and they are both art related, and it's great to know that art, painting, very much alive, very much a part of our municipality. The Meaford Tree Trust is having an art exhibition and silent auction as an opening reception. That's July 8th, 2 to 4 p.m. at the Meaford Hall. It features 20 area artists and also depictions of the 100-plus-year-old oak tree at the Leith Church Cemetery out in the western part of our fine municipality. In addition to that, event Saturday, July 22nd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Rotary Harbour Pavilion, an art show and sale. There's also musical entertainment. This event is presented by the Meaford Creative Arts Association and Mary McTaggart, a very fine lady, be very glad to fill you in with more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other announcements? Seeing none, I cannot resist the invitation to keep talking about Canada Day celebrations in Meaford. And I'll just highlight one. I would be surprised if there is any other municipality across Canada that has its own air show as part of Canada Day celebrations. And thanks to Gordon Price, aviast, amazing, and his Dam Pub. This is going to be a real highlight of our celebrations, and I believe it's about 12:45 p.m. Anybody can verify that and it'll be over the harbor area. He flies a Yak 25, is it? And all I know is it's all muscle and power, and the fearless flyer is only 81. So that ageism is non-existent in Meaford. So I think that wraps up our announcements, and I just want to state at this time that members of the public are always encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and will be limited to 10 minutes. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items on the council agenda or ask a public question of council, they may do so either in person or ask a public question of council in the council chambers or remotely via Zoom, phone, or internet. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or ask a public question must register in advance with legislative services by 10 in the morning on the day of. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. Deputations are limited to 5 minutes, public questions to 2 minutes, and I believe speakers to 2 minutes as well. So now I'm going to call on a presentation and invite Diane Dolmer and Carol Clark of Georgian Bay Home Share to speak to us. You may want to move that microphone just down a little bit. That'll be better. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Kentner and members of the council. I'm very pleased to have been invited to share information about Georgian Bay Home Share with you this afternoon. The UN Declaration of Human Rights, Article 25, states that housing is a human right. Georgian Bay Home Share is a new and unique outreach program of Grace United Church, Thornbury. The home share concept has been operating in various forms for many years in Europe and in the US. But with the rising cost of housing, home share is becoming more popular in Canada, particularly in Ontario, and there are programs in Toronto and in Waterloo. Georgian Bay Home Share addresses two social justice issues in the southern Georgian Bay area: the unavailability of affordable housing for low to mid-wage income earners and seniors living alone who want to age in place but find it difficult to maintain their homes. If I can make this work. The housing crisis is particularly difficult for young people. According to Grey Bruce United Way, one must earn $60,000 per year or $32.96 per hour for a 35-hour work week to afford the $1,500 per month often charged for a one-bedroom rental in this area. The starting wage for a PSW is $20 an hour or approximately $40,000 a year. People on minimum wage, part-time and/or temporary employment, and those on social assistance struggle to pay the rising rental rates, which compromises their ability to pay for food, utilities, and basic needs. In southern Georgian Bay, there is an inadequate supply of affordable housing. People in the retail, service, and healthcare sectors, for example, have the opportunity of employment, but cannot find accommodation they can afford. The result is employers cannot attract and retain workers. we have all noticed the help wanted signs in retail and in restaurant windows. Safe, affordable housing ensures that people have the stability to seek and find jobs, to seek further education and participate in community life. These home seekers are ordinary people, just like you and me. They are working in this community at occupations like teaching and nursing, or they may be employed at the local grocery store or your favorite retail shop. Access to safe and affordable housing impacts the economy. A community is healthy and vibrant when all ages are represented. Georgian Bay Home Share can keep people in the community while enabling seniors to stay in their home longer. By being able to age in place, many seniors will not need to enter seniors' residence, therefore reducing the pressure on the healthcare system and the need to build more residences. I would like to quote from an article in On the Bay magazine written by Rosalind Morrison of the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay. I quote, "We believe that affordable housing is the greatest challenge affecting the sustainability of municipalities in our region." End of quote. According to the Ontario Report on Aging in Place 2017, I quote, "In Ontario, there are 2 million seniors. 93% of seniors aged 65 and older live independently in private households as opposed to an institution." End of quote. That is the preference for most, but loneliness, affordability, and managing home maintenance becomes a concern. They are isolated because of lack of transportation. With inflation rates so high, there is a need for some to supplement their finances to cover the increase in household expenses. They would feel safer and more secure having someone living with them. Some must leave their homes unwillingly to enter a senior's residence. Please take a moment to read these statistics from the 2021 census. I would like to highlight 2 of these statistics, as this is where we see the potential for home share. 31 to 34% of the population in the town of Blue Mountains and Meaford is over 65 years of age and getting older. In Meaford, there are 5,828 private households. 1,400 of them have only one person living in them. Georgian Bay Home Share will offer one way of alleviating the housing crisis in the Meaford area while keeping seniors in their homes. This will be accomplished by matching home seekers with home providers to share living space within a home. The benefits of this arrangement are a mutual sharing of talents and abilities, culture, family and friends, interests and activities, and support and encouragement for each other. There is a sharing of household work and expenses with an exchange of services in lieu of some rent. At Georgian Bay Home Share, we take the time to know both the home seekers and the home providers. The potential home sharers have as many conversations as are needed before agreeing to share a home. Our goal is to match 2 like-minded people. Every step in the process is completely confidential and non-judgmental. Membership or attendance at Grace United is not a criterion for participation in the program. And Georgian Bay Home Share is a nonprofit organization and charges no fees for this service. The application is the first step in the process. Applicants may be referred by an agency such as BVO or Grey County Housing, or may self-refer through our website. The application is short and simple. We ask name and contact information. There are questions such as what area of the home each housemate would be willing to share, for example, a kitchen, and what is most important to each in a home share agreement. The home provider would indicate what assistance is required of the home seeker. Personal care is never part of the agreement. In-depth interviews are arranged for both parties by the Georgian Home Share team. These interviews are really just conversations, the first of many, to get to know each person and their needs. The questions are alike for both home providers and home seekers. For example, do you prefer a male or female housemate? Do you have allergies? Do you have a pet? What does your typical day look like? What do you think would be the benefits or challenges of sharing a home? Do you smoke, use recreational drugs, or alcohol? When is a desired move-in date, and what assistance for the home provider would be offered? After the interview, if the applicants wish to proceed, character references and police checks are obtained, and the Georgian Bay Home Share team visits the home to make sure it is suitable for the home seeker. If the team feels that there is potential for a home share match, the two individuals come together with the team to get to know one another and gain information and inspect the home. If they want to proceed, a memorandum of understanding of living arrangement is completed, which lists all the requirements of a shared living arrangement. This agreement is not a lease and can be broken with 30 days notice for any reason. It is not covered by the Landlord and Tenancy Act. Ongoing support is provided by the team with a telephone call to each home sharer 1 month post-match and ongoing mediation for any conflicts that might arise for the following 6 months. We are actively seeking home providers for home seekers who currently have submitted applications. We know there are many home seekers too. Applications are available on our website. Perhaps you might know someone who would be interested. We have applied for and received grants from the United Church of Canada Foundation and from the Blue Mountain Village Association Foundation. We have also received donations from individuals. Charitable receipts are available. Diana Dahmer and I are committed and experienced team members, each with a history of working for social justice. We can call upon 2 other volunteers when needed, one of whom is a retired OPP officer, and the other is a retired psychologist. We also have the full support of Grace United. Waterloo Region Home Share have been generous advisors, and we have given our information to McMaster University and United Housing for All in Southampton as they have set up their programs. Blue Mountain Village Association have been supportive and is sharing our information with their homeowners. More information can be found on our website, or you can contact us through our email address or phone number. In conclusion, I'd like to read that quote from Home Share Canada. We believe in a world in which sharing a home is a commonly accepted living arrangement, and individuals feel happy, safe, and at peace with their homemates. End of quote. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Mayor Kentner. Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting idea. I'm only assuming, but I think if one was interested in sharing their home, you would have to have a minimum of a bedroom and a washroom available for.
Yes. Yes.
Is that the base?
Absolutely. Generally, the homes would vary, of course. Some homeowners are willing to share perhaps one of their 3 bedrooms, say in a bungalow, with a shared bathroom and a shared kitchen. Other homeowners might have a finished recreation room, bedroom, bath, and maybe even a kitchenette in their basement, which wouldn't be enough perhaps to make dinner, but they would be willing to share their kitchen. And in exchange for the rent, the home seeker would be expected to do jobs around the house, chores, shoveling snow, cutting the lawn, cleaning windows, whatever the homeowner and the home seeker decides is what they need.
Councillor Euring?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship, through you. Great presentation. Thank you very much for the initiative. That's very badly needed. We all know affordable housing is a paramount issue. I'm glad you quoted the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay, because they are doing great work on this kind of thing as well. My question was just in terms of disseminating the message, are you utilizing a lot of much social media? How is the word getting out?
Yeah.
Because it would be a great message to share. I mean, that's exponential sharing is one of the best ways out there. I'm wondering, are you on social media? And if so, what platforms?
We certainly are. We have been doing presentations to every organization in Southern Georgian Bay that will invite us, such as Rotary and Lions. And we're also presenting it to all the churches. And on the 29th of July, Light 99.3 is going to air our interview with them. And then on July the 4th, they're going to start 15-second ads 3 times a day, 7 days a week for 3 weeks. So you'll hear about us that way. We also have our website. We're on all of the e-blasts that the churches send out to their members. We're not on Facebook yet.
Any other questions? Councillor Forder?
Hi, Carol. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate that. A couple of quick questions. Georgian Bay Home Share, are you guys currently operating in Meaford? And I'd just like to get an idea within sort of your area. How has the response been? Like, how many applications have you received for this home share program up to date so far? Thank you.
I'd say that we are operating in Meaford and in down in Blue Mountains. We haven't extended to Collingwood or to Owen Sound. There's just the 2 of us. So we're going to start here and then expand as we hope it will grow. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Just curious to know how the response has been from the community and maybe how many applications GBHS has received up to date
Right.
so far.
I'd say that in total, we've probably received about 12 home seekers. And we have 2 home providers only. And we have 3 who are thinking about it. It's difficult to get home providers. Home seekers, they're out there and they need homes. And we have a list. We do not do this on a first come, first served basis. We match people according to their compatibility. So even though we might have a home provider and a home seeker, they may not necessarily match. So we need to have more home providers, and we hope that our advertising, our promotion will bring a few of those in. I know it's going to take time, especially for seniors, to wrap their minds around sharing their home. So we're prepared to work away at it until it happens.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney?
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you, Carol. This is a really brilliant initiative, and thank you for bringing it
Thank
to
you.
Meaford. We know in this area we have the highest unemployment rate in the province, so what you're doing may help in a small way to address that. My question for you is in relation to the negotiation involved between the homeowner and the home seeker. Is there any rent paid, or is it all services provided by the home seeker? And how do you help facilitate that discussion between the 2 and establish what, if there is rent charged, what a fair rent might be?
The 2 negotiate between themselves. Georgian Bay Home Share do not negotiate the rental. And usually, for example, if the rent might be $800 a month, for a bedroom, bath, and a sitting area. And then the home seeker would be expected to do whatever the homeowner would like them to do. It could be 5 hours of work a week, whatever it is that they decide works for them. And so that is written into the agreement that the home seeker will do this much work and therefore the rent will be this.
Thank you, Carol. Every level of government and many, many bright brains are working on this. You're doing something about it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now deputations, and we have 6 deputations, all dealing with item 9B on our what we call our pardon? Yeah, and specifically our agenda, committee of the whole agenda. So, and just so you understand, anything dealt with on that agenda is carried forward if it is approved to be get final approval at the next council meeting. So as I say, we have 6 speakers, and I'm going to start with Joseph Leung. And all of these will be addressing that item, which is the project manager and community benefits negotiator with regard to the TCE project.
Council, we all want this best community benefits agreement all around, specifically a water storage liability and compensation act created by our federal government and provincial. In Mr. Kepner's letter to DND, July 31st, 2020, he quoted the frustration of Miss Helen Scott about insurance coverage in the event of water damage to her home caused by TCE project. The underwriters will not put anything in writing. We have to wait until damage happens. Have an adjuster assess the situation, deny the claim, then we sue TCE, maybe the municipality, and maybe Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, because they are going to be in partnership. This is very disturbing. Regards, Miss Helen Scott. So Mr. Kepner, at that time was a councillor, he responded, can anyone have any doubt that approval of TCE's project will not only diminish greatly the value of these homes, but place a burden of psychological stress on the occupants? TCE has given Sun an understanding not to proceed without their sanction, and a partnership was offered to them. I doubt that Sun will fail to see the pitfalls. But contrast, he has effectively excluded us, municipality of Meaford, which is entirely inappropriate. This was 2020. A case I'm going to mention, worth mentioning, the Nuclear Liability and Compensation Act went into force in 2017, replaces the act that was done in 1970. That's 53 years ago. Under the new NLCA, the operator is responsible to pay up to $1 billion for civil damages resulting from an accident. Earlier, it was only $75 million per reactor. We have Darlington, Pickering, Le Preux in New Brunswick, and Bruce Power. Canada also contributed for an international insurance in case there's not enough money to cover that. So compensable damages include bodily injury, loss of life and property, psychological trauma and health issues, economic loss if you cannot go to work, cost of remedial measures to repair, reduce, or mitigate environmental damage listed under the Environmental Protection Act, noise, air, light, land, water, animals, and trees. In history, of course, when they were building those reactors, accident will not happen. We're building them. So in my lifetime, also in your lifetime, we have witnessed 3 accidents: Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima. So what I want to do, if we want to get the best negotiator for our community benefit agreement. Strategy Corp is not the one. Question is why? Its founder is one on the board, is on the board of directors. Announcement by TCE, May 1st, 2020, after he served 3 years as ambassador of Canada to United States. His wife, Miss Leslie Noble, spearheaded the Attainable Housing Corporation for the town of Blue Mountain. Third, Strategy Corp team of 8 members. I checked every job description they've been doing in the past, also have conflict of interest. Ms. LeBlanc worked for TransCanada Pipelines. Mr. Chris Loreto, Affordable Housing, Ministry of Housing and Affairs. Matthew Siegel, Aggregates and Mines. Aidan Grove White, Municipality Affairs. Jaden Daniels, Municipality Affairs. I think this is my opinion. It would be wise for us here, before we do anything, we consult our integrity commissioner if there's any conflict of interest. Mr. Forder did this when he thought he was going to be in conflict of interest. He asked the advice and you were told you cannot participate, and you did that. So this is my advice, and thank you for giving me this attention. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Second speaker is Kelly Haslam.
Mayor Kentner, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, and council members, thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Kelly Haslam, and I am a full-time resident of Meaford. I understand the motivation to hire both a community benefits negotiator as well as a project manager to assist staff and council in guiding the municipality through various aspects of the project. The stakes are really high, and we need to get this right. I am, however, concerned about the process by which Strategy Corp was selected, as well as the selection of them as the consulting firm. With the stakes as high as they are, and the project being as contentious as it is, why would you consider bypassing the purchasing processes, limits, and authority award process? Transparent due diligence must be completed to ensure that appropriately independent and qualified firms are selected for these contracts. As you have heard through letters to council this past week, there appear to be close ties between Strategy Corp and TCE. The most obvious example is David McNaughton. He is the director of TC Energy and was previously the chair of Strategy Corp. This could potentially create a conflict of interest. If support in the process is required, let's ensure it's received from qualified firms who will advocate in Meaford's best interests. The best way to do that is to follow a thorough and transparent due diligence process. I respectfully request that council follow Meaford's own purchasing processes, limits, and authority award process in the awarding of these contracts, and that you select firms who are appropriately qualified and truly independent from TC Energy. Thank you.
Our third speaker is Michael Ashmore.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner, Deputy Mayor Keaveney, and Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm against the pumped storage program ever since I heard about it. And our past petitions have been ignored by Council. Our referendum requests have also been spurned. And on February 27th, despite significant public opposition, a motion to be a willing host to TCE was approved 5-2.
Now we have a strategic corp proposal for a public benefits consultation. I hope the costs are outlined in it also. We have water, air, noise, pollution of construction and operations. Bylaws are necessary for these from the range. Currently, we do not have noise bylaws for range activity. These bylaws really need looking at. There are better alternative, lower cost proposals with battery storage. The traffic and congestion from trucking huge amounts of gravel backwards and forwards through Meaford would probably require a bypass. Has this cost been thought about? There's also potential property damage from blasting, subsidence, and potential flooding. Unanswered questions include who is going to get paid for the $1 billion of gravel that's going to be excavated to form the reservoir. Apparently in the settlers' times, the gold and silver in the land were reserved for the crown. What happens to the gravel proceeds? I don't know. I can't get an answer. I've been asking this question for 6 months. Does the money go to the crown or does it go to TCE? Who knows? We've heard from the past two speakers that we have possible conflict of interests, which should be referred to the Integrity Commissioner. Why not take the time to go to the Integrity Commissioner to find out before you make a decision? Especially as the Strategic Corp proposal is littered with errors and verbiage. There's a lot of blah, blah, blah in there about we'll do this and we'll do that. But one only needs to look at the numbers. They profess that the cost is going to be 3.1 billion of the project. Mr. Anderson put this number forward together with Strategic Corp, and apparently it's been revised to 4.5 billion. Is that not a significant change that should be reflected? This document's March 2023. And then we have a map on this proposal, which is completely distorted. It shows the proposed reservoir far to the north of the building, the tank range building. The actual map, the most recent proposal, is this, where the reservoir is right next to the property boundary, adjacent to these properties, these 300 properties that would be affected by flooding. Has this been taken into consideration? Not by Strategic Corp and their map. Are we looking at errors? Are we looking at lack of preparation, lack of due diligence? These are problems that should be looked into before you make a decision on who should do this. That map is a gross distortion. I have a map here and I'll pass it to the council members after the meeting. They're building a reservoir on porous limestone rock. One needs to only go down the English Falls Road and watch the water dripping out the limestone rock on the side. This is what you're asking for. The Duxbury Cemetery will be right in line. Also, SAGO methodology of public phone sampling of 75 Meaford residents. SAGO is the other party in the Strategic Corp proposal. 75 Meaford residents hardly scratches the surface of a properly, even if it's properly and fairly conducted. A phone call, you call 75 people and say, what do you think of this reservoir? Oh, I think it's a bit of a problem. I don't like the way it kills fish. Oh, we'll address that. Goodbye. And then you report the fish problem. Best way to do it will be to have a full public meeting at a time like October, an all-day meeting where all these things can be proposed, talked about, and then have a referendum. If you must do this thing, at least pick somebody like Ainsley or Ainley Associates from Collingwood. They're local. You profess in your Economic Development Committee to look after local business. Why not Ainley? They're highly reputable, good company. I would suggest them as opposed to these people that seem to make mistakes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Next speaker is Tom Buck.
Thank you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, and councilors. I appreciate your allowing me to address you today. I'm Tom Buck, a resident on Cedar Avenue, president of the Sunnyside Beach Cottagers Association and a director of Save Georgian Bay. I don't know honestly why the good and smart people who have studied this project in depth and see its many flaws continue to bang their head against the wall of misrepresentation, deception, and protection of TCE's shareholder return. Why is it so difficult to find political leaders who will attend to the will and protection of their constituents and study the logic and science of the project? It's not that difficult to see that this energy storage project is inefficient, environmentally harmful on many levels, proposed by a company who frequently offends the environment and proposes to build it over the heads of hundreds of your neighbors and friends. Something that does not happen in Canada, the UK, Europe, maybe other countries, at least until now. Opening up TCE's checkbook does not make the project morally right. I'm here today to shine a light on a decision-making process that could have been transparent and is not, and it's buried in item 9B. TCE commits to be transparent, which in my book means public and truthful. Yet, as they work through the advocacy for their proposed project, they continue to act in ways that are shadowy and deceptive. They claimed the area around the project was away from residences. This is not true. There are more than 300 homes close to and under the proposed huge reservoir. TCE in its initial meetings greened out those homes in their depiction of that area where they were putting the reservoir. Is that transparent and truthful? TCE promises to do no harm. A DND's own analysis shows endangered species on the base will be damaged or destroyed by this project. Among a dozen species at risk are chorus frogs and butternut trees. Aren't we all expected to protect these from harm? Against DND's own policy for environmental stewardship, the defense minister has allowed the proponent to advance the project, knowing the damage it will cause. Shouldn't this minister be the leading champion for DND's commitments? Is that public and truthful? I won't get into the details on the $17 per year TCE says each Ontario resident will save, or the depiction of a fishing boat over the newly designed intake that was in the recent public meetings TCE ran. Both of these promises will likely fail. Is that public and truthful? Carbon credits, environmental protection, ratepayer value, transparency, pushing the project as green are all promises made and unlikely to be kept. It's not green when it damages the ground, the water, the species at risk, and is 1/3 less efficient than contemporary alternatives. Is that public and truthful? Now I'd like to talk about your transparency. Councilors, today we have item 9B on your agenda. The item asks for two actions. First, to suspend your prudent and normal contracting practices so that a contractual agreement can be made with Strategy Corp for the purpose of assisting in negotiations with proponent TCE for a municipal benefit agreement and a project manager role with regard to the project. Now, whether a constituent of yours supports or opposes this project, all of us would very likely want you to be transparent in your deliberative process. This work, even though thoroughly described in your well-written memo associated with 9B, which kind of glosses over the decision-making process, was not public. Making this public will avoid any appearance of backroom selections of consultants with ties to TCE or other conflicts. You have the power to pause or say no, to say we will follow our prudent contracting process steps as defined in our codes and bylaws. You have the power to bring consulting candidates into this very chamber and have them make their presentations public on how they would approach the work. You can work through the public process to find the consultant that will best represent our people, our interests, our municipality in an objective way, independent of the proponent. If you carry on with these actions as proposed by your staff today, you'll have the appearance of joining TCE in the back room to make these decisions. Now, TCE, if being transparent, should want this as well. They should want you to have a bona fide independent advisor for your side, on your side for this task, sitting across the table from TCE. Now, Save Georgian Bay was formed to protect our many neighbors around the bay from harm, to protect pristine Georgian Bay's ecosystem from harm and the escarpment around the bay from harm. We care and we seek truth, science, wisdom, integrity in the process. It has not been easy to find. Finally, whoever brought this item to your agenda in this way should know better. Counselors, I urge you to study how this came to you because it puts your integrity at risk. Whether you support or oppose this project, your actions must allow the community to participate and see that you are shining the light on the project for the benefit of your local constituents and all of Ontario. My promise is that more and more, everyone will be watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bucks. Our next speaker is Sherry Richardson.
Mayor Kentner, Deputy Mayor Cavini, council members. My name is Sherry Richardson. I'm a full-time resident in Meaford. We are all on the same team, or we should be. Team Meaford. Having the residents and town's best interests at the heart of all decisions. As a team, we look to council for team leadership. We raise our concerns and our ideas in the hope that we are listened to. And as team members, we value openness and transparency. That's what makes us an effective, healthy team and a healthy and vibrant, caring community. We need a company who will fight for our team. Getting insurance to be paid for the homes under the dam should there be a breach or flood. TC Energy doesn't have the best track record for safety in projects that they actually know what they're doing. As opposed to this project in uncharted waters, pardon the pun. Are we their guinea pigs? So let's ensure that we have a company who will get us all we deserve and then some. Do not let Strategy Corp be that company, with the founder, David McNaughton, who in May 2020 was appointed on the board of directors for TC Energy. Too close of ties, in my humble opinion, to represent Meaford fairly. With regards to this issue before you today, we ask that you exercise true leadership and put the interests of the thousands of Meaford residents who are opposed to TC's project ahead of their interests. Please take the time to follow procurement processes to find a consulting firm that has Meaford's interests at heart. The process of finding a contractor needs to be fair and open, not compromised by questionable practices and relationships. We have a host of knowledge and expertise in our members of Save Georgian Bay, who are on Team Meaford, by the way. together with excellent staff members and magnificent counselors. Perhaps create a subcommittee to find a company who will not have connections with TC Energy, who are our opposing team. Finally, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council, I would like to ask 2 questions. 1, who recommended Strategy Corp for this role and to whom? 2, it is my understanding that Strategy Corp will also be taking on the project management function of coordinating peer reviews of TCE's various technical and impact studies. Is this correct? If so, how can you be assured that these will be impartial? Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And finally, I'm going to invite Joseph Leung back to the podium, and he is speaking on behalf of Karen Coleman, who is not able to be here today.
Dear elected, I cannot express strongly enough my disbelief that Council is being asked to adopt the recommendations stated in the Agenda 9B. My trust is eroding. How does a project so gigantic as TCE's warrant waiving the usual process of tendering goods and services and instead opt for an informal quotation process? What are you thinking? How can you shoe in Strategy Corp when you know David McNaughton founded and chaired that company and now works with TCE, sitting on their governance committee and their health, safety, sustainable and environmental committee? This is a more than obvious conflict of interest. In fact, Mr. McNaughton has already violated Canada's conflict of interest in 2020. This act prohibits former public office holders from acting in such a manner as to take improper advantage of their previous public office by hiring Strategy Corp. The municipality can also be accused of conflict of interest. How can you ignore the falsification of Strategy Corp written presentation to town that in 2020 Meaford Council unanimously declared support for considering the proposed facility? Absolutely not true. This disinformation is probably being used for political lobbying with no one to challenge it. Who in council will call the truth? Council and staff are expected to represent their constituents fairly. Due diligence is expected of you. Optics are that you are being pressured by TCE, the fossil gas and nuclear industries, with no real say of your own. A citizen committee should participate in choosing the company or companies to be hired for project manager and the community benefit negotiator, and that council should not adopt the resolution proposed by the committee of the whole. Sincerely, Carol Coleman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leung. And we also have a public question. And again, the time limit for this is 2 minutes. And our speaker is Amanda Greenfield.
Good afternoon, Meaford residents, councillors, deputy mayor, and mayor. My fellow resident, Mike Ashmore, mentioned on this topic during his deputation. My question is with reference to a previous motion made by Councillor Steve Bartley, requesting to have staff to conduct a review and supply a report addressing Meaford's bylaws and/or regulations and status on air, noise, and light pollutants. I ask where this stands, and I would like to have its results, its developments. I request that staff and/or council to respond with details.
Time?
I could probably speak to that
Yes.
one very quickly.
Please.
As council is finalizing their strategic priorities, it is one of the strategic priorities that council has requested, and we'll be considering timing at that as we finalize the strategic priority. So it is on council's radar as a priority.
And I believe that we actually have some dates we spoke of this morning for reviewing those.
The workshop, I think it's July 25th.
July 25th.
That's the workshop that council will be talking about timing and finalizing, and then bring it forward to a future council for final consideration, but that's the timing for that.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
I understand that there's a workshop and that it is on the priority list. I'm wondering where it is on the priority list, and is as of July 25th, is it actually going to be discussed, or is this something that's going to be passed off? As you know, this is a historic motion made by Councillor Bartley, so I'm wondering what the time pending is.
I think it will be discussed on July 25th anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is council inquiries. Do we have any inquiries, Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I have two. One, a resident asked, and I couldn't answer this question. So regarding the GBCS track, somebody asked, and again, this may require some digging because this is historic. They asked whether that original piece of property, the land sits, the land that exists, was that originally donated or purchased by the school board? The reason obviously being, they're wondering if there were any conditions placed upon it, if it had been donated as to potential future uses. So I don't expect you to have an answer now, but I do want to put that forth just to make sure that we look into exactly what the genesis of that was. The second question I have, Mr. Voigt, regarding Main Street meetings coming up. One's tomorrow. And I believe you had said that, and correctly so, that it's going to be autonomous from the municipality. And you kind of suggested that maybe it'd be better if best of council didn't not attend, at least not in official capacity. And I'm just wondering what the basis of that is. There's many councillors that do sit on various organizations within. And I just think from information gathering, from a perspective of where this is going, we all have a great deal of curiosity, obviously. So I'm just wondering what the basis of that suggestion was from.
Through your worship, that was the other Rob that sent it. But that's not to shuffle off blame, because I don't think there is blame to be passed off. I think the idea is because this is very much going to be a citizen-based organization, and with councillors present, you change the dynamics of the discussion, and we just want to make sure that it's done. Again, trying to avoid any worries that might arise through that. It's not a hard and fast rule, of course. I don't think Rob was intending that there's some sort of ban on councillors' participation, but just be aware, of course. I think you, particular councillors that have been around for a while, that when you enter the room, it changes the discussion and the dynamic somewhat. So it was just a kind of word of cautions. I'm available anytime my schedule allows to discuss this more. The deputy mayor has reached out. We're trying to find something. I think we've got a date identified next week to discuss this. But yeah, that's all it was.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Director Victoria. I have had a couple of questions from some of the good folks out in the Bogger area concerning the long-awaited completion of the Gillies Bridge, number 15. We were hoping that it maybe would have been finished before the end of last year. I know there were problems there. Do we have an update on that? Do we have any idea when that bridge and the side road are going to be open?
Through your worship, I guess this is good news. The bridge actually was opened last month. I apologize for not getting that information in front of council sooner. I did remember having a conversation with one of you saying you were fishing off of it the week that it was open. So I know some of you were aware. We do have a small amount of remaining work underneath the bridge that still needs to occur, but it needs to happen within the designated in-water works timing window, which is typically between July and September, depending on the type of waterway that it is. And so residents may see some work happening within that time window to finish off that, and there may be some interruptions to users of the bridge, but we will be providing information to the people in locally and have information on our website. But yes, the road is open. So hopefully people can kind of go back to their old travel routes because it should be up and going for everyone to use.
Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And just on a slightly lighter note, just a question in relation to the standing planters in front of Meaford Hall. We have our new flowers up this year, all in shades of purple, and they look great. But I just wondered if those particular planters were going to receive any flowers this year.
Yeah, I was speaking to our manager of Parks and Culture. They are going in. We didn't get the planters until I think today or tomorrow, so you will see them very shortly. There's a few, some at Beautiful Joe, some of those are being done this week. We're just waiting for delivery of, they came from a different supplier than the other ones that you saw, so those are being done right now.
Well, you've just answered my question, because I was going to ask about all the flower boxes at all of the parks. And I was going on the assumption that either the nurseries had run short, or our staff may have been busy handing out water during our fire crisis, and therefore we're just late in getting to planting the flowers. But it is June 26th, and I'm not sure winter isn't that far away from the kind of spring we've had. Anyway, other questions? If not, or inquiries, we'll move on to our consent agenda, and we have a number of items here that have been that we've seen before, and we can consider them individually or as a group. I have some direction from council on if there's anything you'd like to consider separately from the consent agenda. I see none, so I should just read what these items are. The first is award of tender for low-class bituminous resurfacing. That one the recommendation is 1, authorize the treasurer to transfer $10,400 from the Cemetery Reserve Fund to fund the project deficit for the Lakeview Cemetery Road resurfacing project. 2, authorize the treasurer to transfer $503,490 from the single surface treatment project budget to the micro resurfacing project to consolidate the projects. 3, approve the award of tender TS 2023-03 low-class bituminous resurfacing to Duncor Enterprises, Inc. for $989,348,082.82, including the municipality's non-refundable allocation of HST, and 4, authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. Shall I read all of these items that are being voted on? I just think it's important that the public know what they are. Then we'll just continue with that. Item B is the recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve the award of tender PF 2023-17 Bayfield Street Shoreline Rehabilitation to Naturally Green Landscaping Limited for $294,715.67, including the municipality's non-refundable allocation of HST. 2, authorize the treasurer to transfer $13,506.67 from the working capital reserve to fund the project deficit for the Bayfield Street Shoreline Rehabilitation Project. And 3, authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. C, the recommendation is that council of the municipality direct staff to implement vegetation management on the 8th concession. D, the recommendation is be it resolved that bylaw 2023-41 being a bylaw to limit the rate of speed on the 8th concession north in the geographic township of Sydenham be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. So we're voting on those items. Do we need them on the floor? Mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Forder, seconded by Councillor Bartley. All in favor? Any discussion of these items, or we're just going right ahead in the vote? So all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So item 8-2 is items for consideration. And the first is a zoning amendment. The recommendation is be it resolved that bylaw 2023-42 being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw number 60-2009 of the municipality of Meaford pertaining to lands known as 112 Roxborough in the geographic township of Sydenham be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. So we need a mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Bartley. Any questions, Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Smith. Why was there a holding symbol on this lot? Or Mr. Voigt, was there any special particular reason for that?
I think Mr. Voigt might be just looking up, but I think this is one of the completely standard ones that we do 4 or 5 times a year. It's to recognise that it's not a municipally serviced road, it's a private road, and so in the past we've asked people to enter into an agreement with us so they recognise that, and the holding provision's been on there till that agreement's been done.
You have somebody who will answer them if you have any. Okay, you ready for the vote? All in favor? And that is also carried. So thank you. Now we need a motion to move into committee of the whole. Moved by Deputy Mayor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. All in favor? And the first item is Grey County Conservation Authority Agreement. Recommendation that the Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford enact a bylaw to enter into a municipal cost apportionment agreement with Grey Sauble Conservation Authority for Category 3 programs and services. Yes, a mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Greenfield, seconded by Councillor Uhrig. Did anyone want to speak to this at this point?
Just if there's questions on the report itself.
Sorry?
Just if council has any questions.
Yep. Any questions at all? You ready to vote? All in favor? That is carried. Item B, project manager, community benefits negotiator, TC Energy project. I'm sorry, we appear to have lost a lot of our interested audience, and whether they have left the building, I do not know. So I guess we'll proceed. If you wanted a short recess, we could do that, but okay. The recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, waive the purchasing processes, limits, and authority of award section of the purchasing of goods, services, and construction policy to allow for the award of TCE Community Benefit Negotiator and Project Coordinator services through an informal quotation process. 2, approve the award of informal request for quotation, TCE Community Benefit Negotiator and Project Coordinator services to Strategy Corp. Inc. And 3, authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. So we need a motion to put that on the floor. Moved by Councillor Forder, seconded by Deputy Mayor. discussion of this? Sorry, go ahead.
I think it would be beneficial through the mayor to speak to some of the commentary and some of the background in relation to this. This has been a bit of a difficult journey for staff to seek out a qualified community benefits negotiator to act on behalf of both the municipality and the community as we move forward, and the conflict has been big with other firms that have been that we reached out to. A lot of companies. TC Energies is a massive big company, and a lot of people have either worked or done work for them in the past, and it has presented a challenge. And I think we would have liked to had a report back probably in March or April with a negotiator. However, we did run into some current concerns. With regard to our purchasing process, the only difference in this process was that we invited people to submit proposals. And part of that process is they had to first confirm whether they had a conflict or not. We did invite some other firms to submit proposals, and that's where they identified that they couldn't because one of the company audits TC Energy. So obviously, and does that, so they wouldn't be able to do that. That was the only change from the purchasing process. The fact that at the time, Strategy Corp identified to staff that they were unaware or they did not have a conflict, and it's their obligation to identify if they believe there's a conflict, and if they do, they don't submit the proposal. I am the one that asked and sought out Strategy Corp. It wasn't recommended by anybody to me. I'm aware of Strategy Corp and a lot of the work they do for municipalities in providing strategic advice and providing the service to municipalities. I know that they've done work for Town of the Blue Mountains and reached out to their CIO of who I should be contacting at Strategy Corp. So that was one that was actually I sought out as a potential because I was aware of the company and the work they do for municipalities. Following receipt of the concerns about conflict, I had reached out immediately to Strategy Corp saying that there's been identified as a potential concern. Strategy Corp did provide us some commentary back on how they acknowledging some of the history, both people which have no connections at this time with Strategy Corp, that they were satisfied that they didn't have a conflict. There was discussions about the Integrity Commissioner. They don't get involved in this. They are to provide advice to council on whether you have a conflict, not so much whether a company has a conflict working us. So they Integrity Commissioner. But what I did do is reach out to our solicitor, and that's who usually gives you legal advice on conflict. So I reached out to Rod Northey to ask him whether he believed there was any potential conflict. And he identified to myself, which I shared with council, that he did not see any conflict. And in fact, he has worked with other municipalities with Strategy Corp and feels it gave a bit of an opinion that he feels that we would be well served in working with Strategy Corp on this particular file and getting the best advice and as a community benefits negotiator on that. With regard to the project management position, one of the things as the report identifies is that obviously staff have to manage consultants. There's time on us, and we thought it'd be much more advantageous to manage one consultant versus two separate consultants in this particular instance. But key for the project manager is not to review the environmental report. It's to act as our liaison to go out and find us highly qualified subject matter experts with relation to the studies that we are about to receive when they start filing under the environmental assessment process. Example, we will get a report on fisheries. That consultant who has knowledge of the process, but Strategy Corp doesn't have any engineers except for the one that's going to be assist us in going out and seeking those professionals. They're going to go find us, probably get requests for proposals of qualified, look at the best and recommend to us who it should be used, but they're going to just all be coordinating that process for us. So they would seek out a highly qualified fisheries expert to peer review the report of TC Energy. So that's the sole responsibility of the role. As I've identified, if both firms that did submit proposals, the Ainley Group, and the other name I'd have to go in the report, I can't remember, not as familiar with them, but they would both do very well with us. We'd probably get some of their engineering on staff to review some of the reports, and then they'd be looking for outside consultants to do some of those reports. So that's just a bit of a background on where we are and what we got. There was comments about the 75 people. That was their proposal. In submitting their proposal was based on our staff reports. When I was seeking proposals, I shared all of our staff reports that have been adopted by council as the basis, plus directed them to TC Energy's site as the background information. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more in-depth discussions when they're selected, a lot more information sharing before we kick into community benefits negotiation. That 75, the groundwater testing was actually a recommendation of us with some potential criteria, but that will be further discussed with us, whoever's we select, as the consultant to move ahead with that process. So that's just a bit of background on and providing some information with regard to the report and some of the questions that came forward.
Anyone have questions for Rob or comments you'd like to make about the recommendation? Councillor Flynn? Oh, sorry. Oh, Deputy Mayor.
I think Brandon was actually first. Thank you. And with your indulgence, Your Worship, I do have two questions. Obviously, moving forward with the hiring of our negotiator and project manager is a really big deal for this municipality and for where we are in the whole process of this TC Energy approval process. So I want to begin just by thanking everyone that spoke today and for bringing all of your comments forward to council and providing us further information and frankly, a lot to think about. So my first question is Strategy Corp. Yes, we understand that they have a great reputation, but I'd like to meet them. Is there a possibility that one or two of the members of this organization could come up and present to this council? I think back to McSweeney and Associates when we were doing our economic development strategy and how engaged they were here in Meaford, and you know, they came and they met with us in person and they talked to us. I think my concern is SCI going to be present in Meaford? Is this going to be kind of a long distance type virtual relationship, or can you tell us more about how they intend to actually engage with Meaford, because we want their full attention?
Through the mayor. So on meeting them, that happens, and with McSweeney, they came and met with us after we selected them. So that was post that. They will, through the consultation, I know they want to meet with every individual councillor to sort of get some background. There will be public consultation, community group consultation. There will be significant consultation. They'll do whatever we want. Their proposal basically outlined that consultation is very important as part of this, and they will do that as part of the process, whatever we want. One of the steps going forward is, and one of the challenges we've had, and I will tell you that a lot of the firms that I talked to about, I've found it very difficult to create a tender for this type of work. And after reviewing it, they go, I get that. This is a very difficult project to define. It's basically going to be what we want it to be as a municipality in doing that. They've given us some ideas. They are working for another municipality doing a community benefit negotiations on not an energy project, but another project, significant project, and talked about the consultation that they've done there. So basically, they'll do whatever they want us to do. I think it's also important that the consultant engage with our legal counsel, because there's significant discussions. The condition, some of the conditions that council added that resolution need to be part of negotiations, but also in consultation with our lawyer as well. So there's going to be a lot of working together with them as well. So that's, again, they'll do what we want them to do.
But we have to engage them first.
Yes.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Armstrong. A question about SAGO, which I'm assuming is a research division of Strategy Corps. Page 36 in our report, it's under SAGO, which to me means nothing other than I'm guessing that they do the research for Strategy Corps. Anyway, it deals with that number 75. I'm not too worried about the 75. I'm hoping the number will be much higher than 75. What bothers me is that it states in the small print, the research will involve individuals living in Meaford. We have a lot of property owners in our municipality who unfortunately cannot live here permanently. So I really want that clarified. I cannot imagine that anyone would be restricted in this research. And so I'm hoping, as I say, that small print is not completely accurate as to who may be involved in the public sentiment gathering.
In that, yeah, I think that was just a general that they will, I think the intent is to our property owners. I think anybody that's a property owner is considered, whether you live here full-time, part-time, I think it's that. So we'll ensure the research, whatever research they do, is in our entire community.
Don't want to make assumptions on this.
And Sago, I think, is a subcontractor for this. They appear to be a company that does opinion polling and things separately, which is obviously a fairly specific expertise. So it looks like the company that Strategy Corps would use to do some of the work as a subcontractor.
Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, thank you to staff for putting together this report. I'm not familiar with any of the organizations that put together or were part of this proposal process. The only information that I have to go off is the proposal from Strategy Corp. I don't doubt that they certainly seem qualified based on the information that they provided. I know Ainley Group has done some work for the municipality before, but that was before my time, so I'm not familiar with that. I would like to know what is the possibility that council would be able to review the proposals from these four firms so we could get to know them better? I don't know who's more qualified than the other. We only have one proposal to go off of for decision-making purposes. I feel that I have incomplete information to make a sound decision in this matter.
Yeah, we typically haven't done that as part of the process. Just on the community benefits, I will tell you that I will note that the other proposal was a 1.5 page, so you won't glean any background on that proposal with regard to the other one that we just received. Those other two proposals fully qualified to be our project manager. I think I'm Ainley Group. The proposal that's come from them, project managing, they would do some in-house, they would send some out. The other individual actually has a small firm, has some engineering firms and do that. If you want, I can share those, but I don't know if it's going to really provide any further insight, but I don't have any problems. I'm sharing that.
For you, Mr. Mayor, on the process side of things, This in many ways is no different to one of our standard award reports, so a tender for gravel purchases or something along those lines. And so whenever we do one of those tenders or RFPs, council doesn't see all of the bid documents, but rather you have staff who you've employed to make an assessment based on, you know, our professional judgments as to which are the best bids. And then when we bring forward the tender award, it's because it meets a threshold in the purchasing policy that says council have to approve a payment.
I don't think we're trying to reflect on your professional standing.
If you can just let me finish, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors will not be voted off of this horseshoe by virtue of awarding a tender for gravel. They sure as heck will be knocked off this horseshoe if they make the wrong moves on this particular, which spells, you know, the whole future destiny of Meaford in many ways.
Which is where I'm going, Mr. Mayor. If you just let me finish my sentence, which is that, you know, council could, if they wish, it would be unusual, but council could, if they wish, appoint members of council as the selection committee for this particular project. We would need a very different resolution to this, and then we'd have to go away and look at that, and then we'd have to come back with a report later to say what the selection committee had chosen. But you could, if you wish, say you'd like certain members of council to be the people who review these bids and then make a recommendation coming forwards, because that's in effect what we do for all of the tenders, is that we have a selection committee that looks at these things and then brings something forward. We wouldn't be able to do that as the entirety of council, because of course then you have to meet together, and then that's a council meeting, and we can't talk about all of these bids and the ins and outs of them in public, again for that confidentiality bit that we talked about a little bit this morning. But if council wanted to say that the for instance, the mayor and the deputy mayor and the CAO were the selection committee for this, then we could.
Yeah, I just think that it's important. I hope someone will bring forward a motion like that. I think that we need that in this situation. I'm concerned. I think that the general impression out there is that we're under great pressure from TCE, and I can tell you the only thing that TCE has said to me recently is, please take your time and get this right. So I don't think there is really, while I hope we can continue to keep this on schedule, I think it's important that we do satisfy the members of this council that they are making a decision based on facts and their own their own lens on those facts. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So in their presentation, they did give Strategy Corp qualifications. They listed 4 outcomes that came from their direct result input. My curiosity is just whether or not anybody has contacted any of these 4 companies to determine kind of what kind of working relationship that was, you know, what you may glean a lot of information from these companies about what their working processes were, how good they were to work with. In any scenario where you would normally ask for references from something, especially for this magnitude, references tend to be skewed because everybody's going to hand pick or cherry pick the best. I was just wondering whether there's also been any pursuit of, let's say, less than favorable dealings with Strategy Corp relationships, just to do more due diligence.
Unfortunately, no, we didn't do that. The one that I probably would have liked to, unfortunately, they couldn't disclose who that was because of confidentiality with the municipality they're dealing with. That's probably the one I would have liked to talk to the most, because they're doing a similar project. I know you can talk to other municipalities that have probably done other types of projects that aren't a community benefits, and I wouldn't find that would be related. What I have heard, and especially even collaborated recently by our municipal legal counsel, who has done work in other communities with Strategy Corp, is very happy with the work and their involvement in those processes.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Just on that note, I did speak with the mayor of the town of the Blue Mountains, because as we know, they were engaged to work on their Attainable Housing Corporation project, and the feedback was positive. So there's that. I did have a question though. We have engaged Red Brick as our communications arm. of this project. And I wonder, Mr. Armstrong, if you could speak to what that relationship might be with Red Brick and Sago, perhaps. How do you see them working together to support the community engagement side of things?
To be honest with you, and I don't know if I disclosed to Strategy Corp that we had Red Brick on the file. I think, as I noted, it's a team approach. So Red Brick would be a part of the communication side. Strategy Corp, again, as we refine a proposal and detail what we really want, then they'll probably factor in Red Brick. So Red Brick will be a part of it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can just add to Deputy Mayor's comments about Blue Mountains and Councillor Uri's question, one of the advantages of Strategy Core is that I think all of us around this side of the table have dealt with municipalities that have worked with Strategy Core before, because they are very, very municipal focused. They come with a very good reputation for municipal work. And while I can't talk to any specific projects, I do know people in a variety of other municipalities who've used them and have never heard anything bad about them. And as Deputy Mayor says, that people have been positive about the work they've done in Blue Mountains recently.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody that came out. One of the things that we say in our opening lines about having an engaged community and coming out and saying your piece, and that we listen to you. It's absolutely, first of all, the line in the agenda is true. We want to hear from you, and we always listen. And I think that I also saw how an engaged community we have when I reflect back on how lengthy a process we went through with our new official plan. We had a lot of people put a lot of time with a lot of comments, and we worked through that. And it was because of the folks that came out and took the time. And they said what was on their minds. And I think we've got a Jim Dandy updated official plan. One of the things that struck me this afternoon is the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. And, you know, there's conversation which has taken place, and we're all on council. We all read about, you know, who was a director, who was a founding person, who is up over their eyebrows in this company, and when did they leave, and how is that? And we've had comment this afternoon where they are free to serve this community. And so you have the spirit and the letter of the law. It was mentioned about bringing in an integrity commissioner, and it's true that the integrity commissioners, for purposes of council, that's in the Municipal Act, it would be the ombudsman. So just on the ombudsman, I had opportunity to speak to the ombudsman at a conference one time, and I said, has it always been the opinion of the office of the ombudsman that members of council should never get together and do anything as a group and be together and get to know one another? And the answer to that was no. They said you can all get together and you can all get to know one another. And then they said, reflecting on my comment of the spirit, if you were to go golfing, and we're all golfing, the ombudsman said, you make darn sure you're talking about your golf stroke. Not one single comment ever about anything to do with forwarding the business of the municipality. And so we can go and we can meet, but we have to be really careful. And so that's the true letter of the law, and yet there's a spirit. So this afternoon, you folks came and you said about the director and how he stepped back, and we've had our CAO tell us that as a corporation, they are free to represent the municipality of Meaford. There's one area on this, though, that Mr. Armstrong, you did speak about, which is absolutely vague, and we can't put a handle on it, and that's the costing. And along with costing, the timeline. When we engage this corporation, if that's what council chooses to do, is it 1, 5, 10, the duration? It's for a very long period of time. That's a question, like, we're not switching up once we get going. Whoever we choose It's for the long haul, I take it.
Through your worship, the intent of this, council has identified both short, medium and long-term impacts, community benefits. There's going to be community benefits that we're going to look at post-construction if they get their approval, during construction, prior to approval. So this firm will be negotiating community benefits with us for a extensive period of time, as long as TC Energy is there doing the agreements, basically entering into agreements and setting the path forward. So as long as those agreements need to be done, they'll be there for us.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Mayor, was noted this afternoon by fellow councillor, and the name of the Ainley Group came up. And it says here that we've got two things. We've got a benefit negotiator and then a project coordinator. Could this council this afternoon make a motion to have the Ainley Corp be project coordinator and not have Strategic Corp fulfill both of the positions?
Yes.
Thank you. I think I would like to suggest that this council consider this afternoon, and I move that.
Is there a seconder for that? I think you have to have it on the floor to talk about it. Am I wrong?
Yes, we'll need a seconder first, please.
Does someone wish to second Councillor Greenfield seconds Councillor Bell's motion? So you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, and I appreciate Councillor Bell bringing that suggestion forward, and we are familiar with the Ainley Group, but if I was going to support that, I'd want to see a report from staff related to how Ainley would proceed as our project manager. I'd want to see that outlined before I could fully support it.
That, Mr. Clerk, could be a friendly amendment, because I can move that also for clarity.
I think that the way that we would do this is that if council, bearing in mind we're in committee of the whole right now, if you were to pass a motion that said in effect, delete the words "and project coordinator" from item 2 and add an additional clause to say approve the award of informal request for quotation TCE project coordinator services to Ainley Group, then because we've done that with the strategy core one, we would provide that proposal from Ainley when we come to council in 2 weeks as part of the package.
Go ahead.
Your Worship, thank you. And I just have a further question just about this entire process. Are we doing this kind of entirely independently from TC Energy? So is the understanding within the current agreement with TC Energy that we can make all of these decisions and then literally the invoices just get sent to TC Energy, or is there some communication or conversation that is ongoing with TC? How does that work?
So through the worship, because TCE is going to reimburse the municipality for these costs, once we select a firm, then we need to outline a more firm proposal on what we want and what the phasing, the costing will be, and provide that to TCE so they're aware of those costs on the go forward. But right now the municipality will need to work with the selected consultant to finalize that. We pay the consultants that we select, and then we bill TC Energy for those costs based on that arrangement. They do not deal directly with TC Energy in any form with regard to payment. It's no different than any of our developments that we have where we hire a peer review consultant. They bill us, we pay them. We actually take security deposits from developers to ensure that those funds are available to offset those costs in reviewing their applications as part of our normal development review process. So it's very similar to that process, and we would run it similar to that. Yeah.
I believe, if I may, that we're obligated to inform TCE of the cost structure or whatever that is, so that that could be approved before we actually approved appointment of an organization to represent us, I think.
I don't think it's approving an organization. That's at our full discretion. We don't need their approval, and we haven't consulted with them at all on who.
No, we haven't.
We haven't. Who we select is totally up to us. What we do need is we need to, through the arrangement, is we need to work with that consultant and develop a more concrete proposal on what we want, and they have to agree to fund that. And really it's more to satisfy their auditors that where the money's going is for something that's valid, and it's not that they dispute the cost. It's just to ensure that they're transparent on their side with regard to their shareholders and their auditors and what they're paying for.
Mr. Clerk, can you sort of edify us on the motion, how it's being amended here?
Yeah, so we have an amended motion on the floor, which was moved by Councillor Bell and seconded by Councillor Greenfield, that says that the motion be amended by removing the words "and project coordinator" from clause 2, and by adding an additional clause that reads, "Approve the award of informal request for quotation -TCE project coordinator services to Ainley Group."
Is that, you have a question, Councillor?
Well, no, I'd like to speak to the
Yes,
amendment. if I
please
may.
do.
Yeah, Your Worship, and thanks to Councillor Bell for bringing that forward. I wholeheartedly agree. Ainley's and Associates, founded in 1961 in Collingwood. They have extensive experience with the former town of Meaford, former St. Vincent, and I expect the former Sydenham. They're respectable, they're recognized. I feel confident with Ainley's and Associates. I can drive to 280 Pretty River Parkway in Collingwood and go into Ainley's office and discuss something. I'm sorry, I can't drive to 333 Bay Street, Toronto. For everybody's good safety. But no, this is it's a great firm. They've got offices, I think, in a half a dozen cities in Ontario. I feel confident having Ainley's on this team. To me, I'm hoping it for those in our municipality who have had second thoughts about strategy core, this is at least an indication that, hey, look, we're not jumping in overboard. We're wanting a second contact here, a second company.
If I could just speak to the amendment, as the report says, we would be very happy with Ainley Group as well as that other one, but Ainley Group. I know the local connection there. The background of the individual working that would be assigned to this has some background in the energy sector, so that would be fine as well. Just with regard to Strategy Corp, they put the project management in there because they knew that we were potentially looking to consolidate. They said it's an option, but that wasn't critical for them, so they won't be upset whatsoever by not having the project management side. And they verbally had told me that, but they knew we were looking for potentially someone to do both because of some of the benefits that I had highlighted, but no concern from our staff to do that.
Are there any other questions or comments, Deputy Mayor?
I apologize, Your Worship, but just reiterating my earlier comments, I still want to see the report.
I think as the clerk said, if with the amendment, this is at committee before it comes in 2 weeks, we will share it'll be part of the council agenda for the next one to include that one, their proposal on dealing with us.
And Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. I'm not sure why we're doing this. At the end of the day, we're still using Strategic Corp for half of the business. Are we doing this to appease some personal people for Ainley Group? I like Ainley Group. I understand that. I want the best corporation out there to do it. And if it's Strategic Corp, that's fine. I don't care about the rest of it. I want the best to do it. I'd also like, before we awarded to Ainley Group, I would like a report telling us the advantages and disadvantages of having two people doing this job. I'm not sure it's the right way to go. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I'll echo that, but I do think, and that it harkens greatly to the report, to a proposal. I agree with you 100%, the deputy mayor, because at the end of the day, Strategy Corp, I don't know Ainsley's affiliations governmentally. Strategy Corp has a lot of levels of influence and of access, and I don't know Ainsley's at this point. So without knowing that, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying that. But if we can't get it as an extensive kind of history on Ainley as we did on Strategy Corp, I'd feel more comfortable making that decision.
Go ahead, CEO.
I just again want to reiterate the whole purpose of the project manager. It is to receive the engineering or all the studies that we receive, and to find, a lot of times it's going to be an outside consultant because they don't have the, like, we're going to get massive variety of reports on various fisheries. I don't believe they have a fishery. So it's going to go out, they're going to find us a qualified, they have been around a long time and will know a lot of really qualified fisheries people. So they will have those resources to do that for us. But for the most part, there's probably some of the studies they might peer review in-house, but most of they'll just be the filter or the liaison to get us the best qualified consultant to provide the best opinion to this council as we review those reports.
I
Sorry,
think,
go ahead,
Mr. Mayor,
Derek.
the only downside I can see to having two different companies here is that it will likely increase the cost. Now, we don't really care about that because we're not going to pay that cost, but we'll inevitably need to have meetings where both companies plus ourselves would be together, plus our lawyer and so on. Whereas if we were dealing with one company, then that's just a little bit simpler. So not just the cost, but the sort of the timeline of making all that happen on the logistics front, I think just gets a little more complicated. I don't think that's insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're looking for sort of a description of downsides, it's a bit more complicated from our front, will involve a bit more logistics, and will end up costing more money, whoever pays the bill in the end.
I'm going to call a question here shortly. So just in summing up, this weighs very heavily with me personally, and I feel that we are probably, I think, responding in the right way to the people we're responsible to by dividing this and giving a local engineering company an opportunity to be part of this. And it may, at the end of the day, the two may keep each other honest. All I can say is I think it's the world unfolding better than it was, and I'm willing to support it. So if you're ready for the question, do you want to read the motion so that everybody's clear?
Yep, I'll read it again. So the amending motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Greenfield, that the motion be amended by removing the words "and project coordinator" from clause 2, and by adding an additional clause that reads, "Approve the award of informal request for quotation TCE project coordinator services to Ainley Group."
All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, everyone, for your, yes.
So we'll now need to move to the main motion, having made that amendment.
Okay, yes, that involves the first clause and the third clause.
Well, and the second,
And of course,
all of it together.
yes,
So
yes.
perhaps I'll just read that to you. I'm just putting the words together right now. So the Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, Waive the purchasing processes, limits and authority of award section of the purchasing of goods, services and construction policy to allow for the award of TCE community benefit negotiator and project coordinator services through an informal quotation process. 2, approve the award of informal request for quotation TCE community benefit negotiator services to Strategy Corp Inc. 3, approve the award of informal request for quotation TCE project coordinator services to Ainley Group. And 4, authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreements.
All in favor? And again, that is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for your help on a tough one. Item C is a request to purchase portion of Cedar Avenue, and the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, declare the best use of the remaining portion of Cedar Avenue abutting 373 Cedar Avenue, measuring approximately 20 meters wide and an average of 7.6 meters, to be a lot addition to the abutting parcel described as Plan 16R-5551, Parts 1 to 4 and Part 1 to 4, Plan 16R-11112, Plan 350, Lot 31, and Plan 386, Lot 56, together comprising PIN 37103-0063. 2, enact a bylaw to stop up, close, and transfer part of Cedar Avenue for the purpose of lot addition to the abutting parcel once the survey is complete, subject to the following conditions. A, registration of an easement to the municipality to facilitate a turnaround on the lands. 2, extension of the existing drainage easements on Plan 16R-5551, Parts 2 and 3, and Parts 2 and 3, Plan 16R-11112, over the lands to be transferred, each that the easement captures and facilitates ongoing siting of the municipal ditch on the west side of Cedar Avenue. And C, completion of outstanding work identified by Transportation Services in 2021. And 3, receipt of written confirmation from the transferee's lawyer that Plan 16R-5551, Parts 1 to 4, and Parts 1 to 4, Plan 16R-11112, Plan 350, Lot 31, and Plan 386, Lot 56, together comprising PIN 37103-0063, are permanently merged on title, and that the proposed lot addition will also be permanently merged with the abutting lands. I hope I don't have to read that once. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Bartley and Councillor Forder. Who's speaking to this?
I will speak to it if there's some questions. Actually, I will speak to it. So the previous council will recall a few years ago, the owner of land purchased a portion of Cedar Ave. As you own land on both sides, this is the end of Cedar Ave before you hit the Canadian Forces Area Training Center. He is asked to purchase the remaining portion equal to his property. It's at the end. Cedar Ave won't be going any further. The 2 conditions being the easement being extended and an easement for a turnaround. Transportation Services have reviewed it. We did provide notice to all landowners. I did have a meeting with one landowner, adjacent landowner, who just, they raised concerns the first time with regard to drainage, and I identified the municipality will be keeping an easement for the drainage, and we'll be looking after that going forward, similar to the first round. And that was the only questions we had brought forward as part of our consultation of neighboring property owners.
Are there any questions for Mr. Armstrong? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have absolutely no issue with the request today and have no problem at all going forward with this for Bob and Kathy Baranski. But my question is in relation to the current $10,000 per acre evaluation that we work with. I just happened to pose the question to some members of County Council that I was having lunch with last Thursday to see where they were at in their own municipalities. And it seemed that the folks I happen to be sitting with, we were the lowest. And I know land is, you know, it has different values in different communities, but I just wondered if we felt that that was a current appropriate evaluation, or is that something we should reconsider?
It's always difficult, through Your Worship, on what that evaluation is, particularly when we're talking about sale of road allowances that will continue to function as if they were a road. So it's going to be encumbered by a drainage easement. It's still going to have to be a driveway. So the appraiser would do that. I think what we would be in this situation, because it's so minor, an appraiser would have to come in and appraise the property, and the property, the cost of that appraisal would probably be around the neighborhood of $3,000. Even if they quadrupled the value of the property, went from 10,000 to 40,000, we'd receive about that same money back, because the total receipt would be about $2,500 or $3,000, I guess, total. If it was the 750 would normally be based on the 10,000, based on the very small area that they're purchasing. We attempted a few years ago to have a generic appraisal done on what the value of rural property would be when people are purchasing road allowances. And what we heard back was it was extremely difficult to do that. I think what I would recommend when it becomes more significant, we would actually go out and get an appraisal that they have to pay for, to actually determine the current value on a very site-specific basis. To get a generic one, it really is too difficult, and that's what appraisers have told us to do.
Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. On the same line, I've been down to the property. I've talked to the owner of the property. I understand what he's doing. I have no issue with what he's doing. I actually think it's a good idea for him. I support it. Going back to what the deputy mayor said, $10,000 an acre. The county had a very extensive report for the town of Blue Mountains, many pages of report, and they come up with an acre over there is $150,000 on road allowances, not on rural land or property in town, on road allowances. We just sold a piece of property not a lot bigger than this for a lot more than that. And whether we do it now or in the near future, this price has to change going forward when we sell a piece of property. This is the end price is ridiculous. It's just not right. And if we were to buy that piece of property, we'd be paying a lot more. I think I will bring a motion forward sometime that we have to come up with a better price than 10,000 an acre.
Through your worship, this is where I got this price from, is what we just recently both sold and purchased land on the 22nd side road. You recall that we sold a portion of land to the individual, or we had to buy a portion of land as well to create a proper turning lane because the road allowances were out of skew. So we had to buy. So this is the same price to which we had agreed to purchase the price, and that was just done a year and a half ago. So we thought that was both on a sale and price. And to be honest, when an appraiser comes forward, they're going to look at previous purchases and sales and base it on that, and may come up with the same price in this type of situation. So no problem looking at figuring out a way to do this better, but that's what the best we could do it with what we had at this point in time, considering at the end of the day for this small parcel and how it's constrained, it's probably the appraisal is going to be more than the actual price of land.
Well, I hope, Councillor Bartley, that you do bring a notice in, and let's ask for a report and find out what we need to know. Okay, have we we haven't voted on this yet. We need to do that. Is everybody ready? I don't see any more discussion. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to community services, item D, the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford enact a bylaw to amend the tiered response agreements with the County of Grey entered into through bylaw 2018-60. Need a mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Greenfield, seconder by Councillor Uhrig. Any discussion or questions? If you're ready to vote, all in favor? And that is carried. Item E, the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford enact a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Kinsman Club of Meaford. Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Forder and Councillor Bell. Any discussion, questions? Very good report that was, I think, well received by councillors, and I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Item F is Development Services. The recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford enact a bylaw to amend the municipality's zoning bylaw by removing the H4 provision from those lands known municipally as 083341 Side Road 6. Need a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Keaveney and Councillor Greenfield. Any questions or discussion of this one? All in favor? And that is carried. The next is the award of tender for rehabilitation of the structure. The recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford 1 approve the award of tender TS 2023-09 rehabilitation of structure 037 to New Road Construction Limited for $567,177.68, including the municipality's non-refundable allocation of HST. 2, authorize the treasurer to transfer $104,304.68 from the Bridges and Culverts Reserve Fund to fund the project deficit. And 3rd, authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Forder. It's on the table. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Keaveney.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no issue with the project. I'm just curious to know, is this going to be detoured or will the one lane be kept open?
Through Your Worship, our understanding with talking with the consultant who has been in contact with the contractor, the intent is to keep at least one lane open throughout the whole project. If there are any changes to that, we'll make sure that there's enough consultation provided or information provided to the residents in advance of anything happening. But our understanding is that at least one lane should remain open and hopefully 2 throughout most of the project.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Victoria, the Gabion retaining wall. Now that's a bunch of rocks in a big wire basket. That's to me more in the creek as opposed to a part of the bridge. So I'm just wondering maybe if our reps from Grey Sabo might want to undertake that cost of this. I'm assuming right now it's all in our job description to be done. So, but
I'll bring it up with GCSCA and get the expected response.
That way we own sound could pitch in a bit on that too. Sure, the entire conservation. So I guess that's a no.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. And that completes that portion of the agenda. I'm looking now at updates from members appointed to County Council, committees and local boards, and we'll start by turning it over to Deputy Mayor Keaveney for a report on County Council.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. You were missed at our last meeting, but I was
Thank you.
pleased to have Councillor Bartley as our alternate beside me at County Council. The meeting was last Thursday, June the 22nd, and began with the singing of Happy Birthday, which seems to be becoming a new tradition over there, in honor of Warden Brian Milne's special day. Once the minutes of our last meetings were adopted, the Long-Term Care Redevelopment Task Force meeting minutes were next. Construction tendering for Rockwood Terrace in Durham will proceed in late 2023. The options of demolition or reconstruction of the existing facility were discussed in the minutes. It was determined that repurposing the existing building would produce a savings of 30 to 40% over a new build. During Good News and Celebrations, many councillors spoke to upcoming Canada Day festivities, and I would have to say, as the Mirror has already referenced, that Meaford has an exceptional agenda in place for July 1st, and I think we probably have a greater level of activities than anyone else, if I may say. Kate Burns Gallagher, Executive Director of the WOWC, which is the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, shared an overview of the activities and priorities of that group. Which is made up of 16 upper and single tiers. The area takes in 1.5 million residents and 500,000 square kilometers of land and is 90% rural. The current priorities of the WOWC are affordable housing, attracting workforce to the region, and mental health and addictions. The three are certainly interconnected. The WOWC is an advocacy group to the provincial and federal government levels. They have been influential in the province's decision to claw back the 3-lot severance policy and the revised provincial planning statement. SWIFT has been very successful, reaching 63,932 residents, surpassing the $50,000 target. A special recognition was made for Ray Robertson and Brian Gilroy for being recently inducted into the Agricultural Ontario Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Brian and to Ray, and it was definitely a proud day for Meaford. Council learned about the progress of the Grey Roots Museum operating plan, the pillars of which are collaboration, accessibility, sustainability, and evaluation. Grey Roots is surpassing pre-pandemic numbers of admissions. Summer kids camps are 100% sold out, and a new feature is large-size interactive games such as Tetris on a giant Game Boy, a double station for Guitar Hero, and the new Arnott General Store will have its grand opening on June the 30th between 11 and 1. Council agreed to the permanent hiring of a GIS specialist for the IT department. This position provides support to every county department except long-term care and also supports 6 of the 9 lower tiers. We're all very proud of the county's new manager of revenue, Calvin Robinson. Calvin began his county career working part-time in the transportation department and is now a qualified CPA. He's a homegrown success story, as stated by Treasurer Mary Lou Spicer. The county had $1.6 million of investment interest income in 2022. Several amendments were made to the bylaw that regulates parking and speed regulations, but none impact Meaford at this time, so I won't get into that. The acquisition of land was discussed to accommodate the new West Grey roundabout to be located at Grey Roads 3 and 4. 3 small parcels are required. 1 was negotiated successfully. The other 2 will require arbitration or expropriation if a deal can't be reached with the landowners. In a closed session, road widening at Grey Road 19 and Crosswoods Boulevard in the town of the Blue Mountains was addressed with the county solicitor. And if there's anything you'd like to add, Councillor Bartley?
No, I think you've covered it quite well. Thank you.
And if I may, I was in a training session on Thursday, but I will be at the Community Services Committee meeting this Wednesday afternoon. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last week we had our meeting of the Grey County Farmers Association, the safety group. A little bit different. The secretary, who most of you know, Paul McQueen, has suggested to each member of the sitting directors that if we get inquiries about things to do with farm safety and other safety items that are brought to our attention, he did something at that meeting which we all found was quite nice. It was very engaging. There was a person who happened to be in the municipality where Paul is the mayor, and they had a question on the age of persons operating an ATV. So they were on the phone and we could talk to them, and we got a chance to give them some information. The question came up about how old do you have to be, and quite simply, actually this literature, which is available, you be 12 years of age, but you got to be on private property or crown land, and you can't cross a highway. You have to be 16 years of age with the proper licensing and so on, and helmets and all the good stuff. And it came to the attention of this particular individual who called that he saw something posted on social media there was an older fella who had a 2 or 3-year-old little boy hanging onto a strap, not sitting down, and it was all fun and games. Very nice, until somebody gets hurt or killed. And that's our whole mandate about safety. And we had a good conversation, so it was really good. The other thing about the farm safety is we're taking the message on the road. So there's going to be some of us who are on the directors who are going to make an appearance at various council meetings around. So not only a thank you to our mayor and our deputy mayor who came, we want to get the message out. And so we're going to be taking it to all the different councils around and just telling what we do, just like what we had today. You get a little chance to do a 10-minute talk, and that's on our agenda. So anyway, that's what we're doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Yes, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I do have a report from the Meaford Public Library, and my reports now are going to be less long-winded. So thank you guys for telling me that. I'm new at this. All right. So the condensed version here. So library staff met with the Ontario Library Service for the first time in 4 years, which was very exciting, and also had completed some governance training. The governance committee for the library met last week, and I was not able to attend that one due to something else council related, but the committee looked at updates to the procedural bylaw, and other library policies are to be reviewed throughout the summer. Library staff prepared a list of capital items, and a report will be brought to the board in September, and funding is proposed to come from donations received in prior year, which are held in reserves. With regards to committee reports, the Governance and Policy Committee made some updates to the Library Board Programming Policy 8, which would include bolstering policies on inclusion and diversity, which I was very pleased to see. The library team report for May this year, e-library downloads, public computer logins, tech center visits, website visits, they're all up compared to this time last year. Facility bookings jumped out at me, they're way up. Last year in May was 7, this year is 137. That's substantial. In terms of the library's community outreach for May, they hosted a Meaford Community Living Group, shared and connected with other local organizations at the Meaford Collaborative Partners meeting. They attended the Meaford Chamber of Commerce After 5 event at Community Living. They instructed how to make a spring wreath at the 55+ Friendship Club and informed them of upcoming library events. And the library contributed to the customer service excellence meetings with other municipal departments. And they also joined in the Main Streets Meaford weekly meetings. And from children's story time to author talks to art workshops and more, Meaford Public Library is chock full of events and programs in July. So for more details, visit the public library website, or better yet, drop in and speak to the wonderful Meaford Public Library staff. And we're on break for summer library wise. So the next meeting will be Wednesday, September 20th.
I think that's all of our committee reports, and that brings us to the notice of motions, and we have a notice of motion. I believe that certainly, yes, you have a, sorry.
I think you're supposed to ask if there's any new ones first and then move on to that one.
Sorry, okay. And have we moved out of committee the whole? Okay, so I need a motion for that. Councillor Bell, Councillor Hartley. So all in favor? That is, and that was at 3:13. Thank you. So motions for decision. Oh, yes. Sorry, is there any notice of motion today? Seeing none, I'll give the microphone to Councillor Greenfield. And it's interesting, we're coming off of the library taking off now for the whole summer, and I think yours is quite a bit different. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, sorry. Need a mover and a seconder for your motion. So
Glad to move.
moved by, and a seconder is Councillor Porter.
Okay, thanks, your worship. Thanks to you, Councillor Porter. Whereas the council of the municipality of Meaford has customarily not held council meetings during the month of August. whereas council has established 16 strategic priorities, plus a number of other municipally related initiatives to be completed before the end of this current term. Whereas a significant number of residential and commercial developments are now pending in our community. Whereas the traditional day-to-day work-related activities of the corporation must continue throughout the month of August, and whereas previously scheduled meetings for council show dates of July 24th and September 11th, representing a gap of 7 full weeks with no council sessions. Therefore, be it resolved that the municipality of Meaford confirm regular council meetings to be held on the 14th and 28th of August, 2023, in an effort to maintain the continuous progress of issues that before us, and that the holding of council meetings in August in subsequent years be examined at a later date. And I will speak to this.
I think we need a seconder for your motion.
If I may.
Yeah, I think we need a seconder for your motion. Sorry. Thank you. Good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you, your worship. Okay, I feel that we are a victim of the calendar, the 2023 calendar, just how the dates have fallen into place. Our last meeting in July is a week before the end of July, so we lose a week there. We lose almost 2 weeks going into September. Labor Day is, I think, late this year. We lose 4 weeks in August, so that's about 7 weeks with no council sessions. I'm thinking it's customary by mid-September, staff is starting to ease us into the 2024 budget. And when that happens, it does take our attention away to a degree of the 2023 projects that are still ongoing. So I'm not asking for 100% attendance in these 2 August meetings. Quorum of 4 can conduct the business in the municipality. I'm hoping we can get 100%, but my personal feeling is that a 7-week gap before council meetings is just unacceptable. I don't think we are representing our municipality appropriately by leaving that big a void in our schedule. So that's why I brought the motion forward.
Discussion. Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, want to thank you, Harley, for putting this forward. We have a lot of stuff we need to tackle in this municipality, and the same amount of work needs to be done no matter how much time we take off. And I also think of how big our agendas might be after a 7-week break, and I'm not looking forward to reading 4,000 pages. So I think that this is a great idea. I fully support it, and if not everybody in council can be there, hopefully there's enough of us that can get some work done. And I also think it shows some goodwill to the municipality and the ratepayers that we're going above and beyond to make this municipality as good as can be and handle our business.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do really appreciate you bringing this forward, Councillor Greenfield, and I appreciate your comments, Councillor Forder, on the matter. And I think there's a number of ways to look at this. I do agree that 7 weeks is a long gap. I think we also have to be conscious of the fact that a number of our staff do plan holidays in August because that is a time when council is relatively quiet. And there is a significant amount of work involved in members of staff preparing reports and an agenda for council. So I know that if we agree to both of these meetings, that does throw a little bit of a wrench perhaps into things for staff. I do agree that there is an awful lot on our plates. And I also consider the fact, is staff's time better spent here in council chambers with us, or is it better spent in the office working on the files that we have directed them to engage in? We do have AMO, which takes up most of a week, third week of August. So all of that being said, I'd like to propose an amendment to compromise to one meeting in August and making that meeting the 28th when we're all back from AMO.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Just before you get a seconder for that, just some information for everybody. Every year in the 2019 to 2022 term of council, the break was 7 weeks. The calendar always flows the same because of the Labour Day holiday. So this isn't unusual, or it just is what it always has been.
Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mayor Kentner. And thanks for bringing this up, Harley. I have no issue with other meetings. If you want to add 4 more meetings throughout the year, I'm there. In August, I'm not there. I've got it booked off, and that's where I have my fishing trips booked, my other dedication to my other clubs that I'm in. Might be able to fit in 1. I'll fit in 3 more in the next month if you want me to. But August is something that is pretty booked for myself. Not that you need me here. And if staff felt it necessary for us to have a meeting, I'd back them 100% and be there. But it's their schedule. I've already talked to staff. They think they can, this is fine. They can do everything that we got to get done without it. But so I could make one of them, but not the other. Thank you.
Councillor Bell.
A little shorter. I won't be here in August either. Thank you.
We wouldn't have a quorum.
So 4 is quorum. So potentially you still would, but maybe not, depending on what dates are. I do believe the deputy mayor sort of put forward an amendment. So if somebody wants to second that, we should talk about that. And if not, it'll disappear.
Okay. So we have an amending motion there. And do we have to vote on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any discussion of that first.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Uri.
Yeah, just because we all have obligations, I'm early August as well. I concur with the deputy mayor because, and again, it does negate that missing that 2 weeks towards the end of August and September 11th. So that was my kind of concession as well, as I thought the 28th would work.
So are you ready to vote on the amendment that we have had 1 meeting in the month of August? And it would be on the 28th. Is that correct? Go ahead, Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you. Could I just ask Councillor Bartley if that 1 meeting on the 28th would work for you?
As soon as I get the 1,200 fish filleted that day, I'll be here.
So how many fish to food basic sell?
How big is the mistake?
So do we want to vote on the amendment? Is everybody ready? All in favor? So that is, are you not voting?
That carries. 4 to 3.
Okay, all right. Okay, on the amendment, okay, okay. And so are you ready to vote on the full motion? That's a compromise. We have a lot to accomplish in the coming months. Now we're looking at adoption of minutes, the council meetings of June 5th, 12th, and 14th. Be it resolved that these meetings, their minutes be adopted. Motioned for that, Councillor Harley and Councillor Uri. All in favor? It's carried. Is there anything to be said about the communications, item 12? Did you have a point? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to pull number 8, please. It was regarding the sorry, I'm on good. It was regarding the the red chair. We received an email on 19th of June, and I just wanted to follow up with staff. I was just curious whether who is kind of responsible for the maintenance of the big chair program, and whether and what kind of the maintenance program is, whether I presume it's done on a yearly basis just for safety purposes. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is one that was set up a number of years ago and has just sort of fitted into the annual work program of the chairs come in at the end of the season and the chairs go out at the end of the season. So the Parks and Rec team would have just gone out there and put them out. And we do some minor maintenance on them periodically. I had, well before this email came in, we'd had some conversations about whether we should still be doing that because of the state of some of the chairs and whether the fact that we couldn't meet all of the locations anymore. So we have now actually removed them for the short terms while we can figure out what the best way forward is and what the location should be, whether we want to do new red chairs or something different. We have been talking internally with our manager of cultural services about a potential idea to have a contest to do with the sesquicentennial next year to encourage local artists to put in a design that could be painted on one of these chairs and then distributed around the municipality. So we're just looking at some different options, but right now we have taken them away so there's no danger to anybody.
I understood that I'm sure we voted sometime during the last term in the budget to rehabilitate or repaint a number of the chairs.
A few of them, yes, but not by any means all of them.
So my question is, was that done? Like, how are they? Do we now have some that aren't safe?
If there was money in the budget at that time, then it would have been done, yes. I don't know. And I'm not saying that they're not safe, but they aren't looking their best and they certainly aren't in the same places where the website said they were. So they have been taken in, the website's been taken down temporarily as well.
Anything else? That's from the correspondence list. There was nothing from communications. We have a confirming bylaw. And the recommendation is, be it resolved that bylaw 2023-43, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Municipality of Meaford at its regular and special meetings held in the month of June 2023, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Uhrig, all in favor? And that is carried. And I believe I'm going to adjourn this meeting.